Hello there, it's Josh here from racingtoprofit.co.uk. Hopefully you can hear me, see me in the bottom right hand corner. I'm coming to you on Tuesday the 18th of July. I hope you've had a great weekend and a good start to the week. This video I'm going to run through a handful of eye catchers going back to Haydock on Saturday the 8th of July in the Old Newton Cup. Couple from Sandown and then whizzing through to the July course. The 3 days at Newmarket last week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a couple of races from Ascot also. I'm going to whiz through, touch on some of the horses that caught my eye, and watch, kind of doing over the shoulder watch of some of the replays. You can see why they stood out to me. They may well have stood out to many other people. Throw them in the tracker notebook and write any notes you please, depending on what I say or your own analysis, and we'll go from there. In terms of how to use them moving forward, I know some people are very much kind of back a horse for the next three starts, stop at a winner in terms of eye catchers and horses to follow. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. That's not my approach. I like using as a way in and added context into a race. And kind of I do like to reappraise a race from scratch, even when I do have a weigh in with an eye catcher or a horse to follow or something like that. That's just my own personal preference. I kind of think when you just have tracker horses, you can sometimes be blinded by them and not do the due diligence on the rest of the opposition and the rest of the race. But that's just my opinion and the way I like to do things. I will crack on and flick through those. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a list of the horses below. If you've clicked through this link on the email, there'll be a list of horses above or below the video link also. As always, if I'm speaking too slowly for you and you're on YouTube, do click the settings cog in the bottom right hand corner and you can increase the playback speed. I might sound a bit funny, but hopefully still clear, and will shorten the length of however long this video is going to be. Let's start at Haydock, the 3:15 Old Newton Cup. The way in with this, obviously there's many ways to kind of spot eye catchers or horses for various different reasons. One of them can be pace and how the race was run and how it worked out. The Old Newton Cup time was pretty slow. If you watch it, nothing really came from the back. I was fortunate enough as one of three darts to land on the winner, who did look big at 25-1 into 15-2 with a 25p rule 4. Part of the attraction, he was on my trend shortlist, but also was the pace maps in the excellent GG's Gold, which suggested only one or two of them may be able to lob along near the front end, dictate and kick, which is exactly what they did with the Farhh horse and the Charlie Fellows horse. And obviously Joe Fanning is a very good jockey generally, but he's in particular decent when he's on the pace or racing prominent and can hit the front and drop anchor and then kick, which he did here. So in effect, if you watch it back, the theory is that horses that were ridden more patiently, that may need a stronger pace in order to help them settle and to race efficiently and to finish off their race, were inconvenienced because they didn't go quick enough at the start. And in theory, if say you chucked in two or three other front runners into this race and they went a much harder gallop and a few of them maybe beat each other up on the front, that would lead to possibly a completely different result with other horses coming out on top. Indeed, if you ran this maybe a different track and so on, it might be a different result as well. So with that in mind, you can kind of look back and try and find horses to spot and eye catchers of some sort. If I just move this video out and try and make it a bit bigger, there we go. I've kept the sound off. Some judges say when you're watching a replay back, I kind of like watching them back with the commentary on, just because they can mention things you haven't spotted that then make you go and look back. But some also advocate watching any replays back with the sound off, so you are just using your eyes and you're not distracted by the commentator in the other way, where you only focus on certain horses and miss certain things. So you can hopefully see here, I wouldn't say I'm an expert race reader by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see they're absolutely lobbing along as expected from the pace map, but that has meant that a few of them are a bit keen, especially these two here, which are the two I've highlighted in terms of going forward, the William Haggas horse and the Hugo Palmer horse. You can often tell, you know, a jockey's hands ideally are resting on the neck, no gap between the neck and their kind of hands, they're resting right on it, which would kind of, as a basic indication, the horse is in a good rhythm, is travelling how the jockey wants them to be. They're going their comfort cruising space and pace. They're not over racing, and you can see with these two here actually, Adam Farhh and Neil Callan they're trying to settle their mounts. They're not the only ones, Scampy as well, but you know, the hands are off. In particular, the William Haggas horse is still pulling off that bend. Some indication that they would have preferred a faster pace. Now, it's at this point where Joe Fanning is starting to pick up the speed. Richard Kinscote started to kind of ask him to stretch. Joe Fanning's aware of that. Those two have been able to dictate, lob along, be in the box seat, get a gap to the rest. And, you know, they're alert to the danger. They show a bit of a turn of foot. Neil Callan here is kind of alert to the fact that they've gone a slow pace. He may need to ask his horse to quicken. And obviously some horses quicken faster and have a quicker change of gears than others. So he's interesting for that. Adam Farrah hasn't moved here. He's one of the last jockeys to actually get active, which can be a good indication as well. And he's trying to find room, always watching a race from the side. You think the jockey has, there must be a load of space, must be a big gap. If you've ever watched any of those jockey headcam videos, it's remarkable. From the side you can watch, and often you think, there's a massive gap the jockey can go through and get a horse rolling. But when you're sat with the jockey's view in behind, it doesn't look like hardly any space at all, more times than not. So assuming the jockey here, you know, he wanted to get rid of him. If I just focus on the Haggas horse to start with, you know, he struggled to settle. He probably wasted a bit too much energy. He wanted a stronger pace. He's doing all his best work late, having started to get going off a sedate gallop, and his kind of hands and heels, he's got a gap there. You know, he's finished off his race, but he hasn't really been, he hasn't had the kitchen sink thrown at him. And he finished in a way there to suggest to me there could still be room in this mark of 99. He's only 5. He's fairly lightly raced in handicaps. Just the kind of older horse that Haggas would do well with. So for me, he is interesting back at, off a stronger pace. So he needs a strong pace in order to settle. He's obviously still a bit keen. That was only the 10th run of his life. He's entitled, see the stars, his breeding's not bad. He's entitled to get better in terms of settling with age. And evidently he does need to. It looks like 1 mile 4 is his trip. But he just needs at this stage a stronger gallop. It'll be interesting to see if Haggas moves him back up in trip. He was gelded here. He did nothing at York over 1 mile 6, but he finished lame there. Haydock here, 1 mile 4, soft, wasn't a problem. Came back to Haydock again, the same race, I think. Yeah, again, looks like wants a strong pace. Now he's got form at York. Will he turn up in a handicap at the Ebor meeting later on in August? Obviously, when he's ridden more patiently, he does need luck. So yeah, that's one to add into the tracker. I still think there's room in that mark. He posted an RPR 106, which is just below his career best. He's 4 pounds below his highest ever winning mark. There's definitely a handicap to be won with him when it drops right over 1 mile 4. Maybe they'll try 1 mile 6. He looks versatile ground wise, but he does need a strong pace to weigh him out to help him settle. To run through horses and those in front to come back. So he will need some luck. Maybe he won't be missed next time, I don't know, but he went off a reasonable price last time. Definitely a handicap over 1 mile 4 or so in him somewhere. And Nolton Cross to a lesser extent, but just because he did a lot of running from the 3 pole, Neil Callan was aware that this could turn into a dash. There's a 3-pole there. He realised he needs to get after him to have any chance. He switches him out wide. He does a lot of running to get into any sort of contention. That's 1 furlong down. 2 furlongs to go. He makes an effort here. He looks like he might keep sweeping past all those on his outside. Puts his head down, looks like a trier. And then his run, just as they kind of enter the final half furlong, starts to flatten out as those exertions from the 3 furlong to now kind of possibly take their toll. I still think that was an okay run. He went off here unfancied. He's only 4. Maybe he's better on your weather. His record would suggest possibly that's the case so far. Back on 1 mile 4 on the sand. He came into this on a good race at Ayr, behind Killever, who ran a decent second at the July course, and the George Scott horse ran well as well. And obviously Scampy finished ahead of him here in this race. That suggested there's still room in this marker 93. He might want a stronger pace. I'm not quite sure on his exact perfect trip on the flat, on the turf. 1 mile 4 looks ideal over walls. He has raced prominently in smaller fields and hit the front a long way out and kicked. So maybe the key to him on the flat, on the turf, if they persist, is a smaller field whereby he can race prominently, be settled on the front, use that turn of foot which visually he had there from 3 to 1, but use that turn of foot more prominently ridden to kick and get away, and hopefully keep enough up his sleeve before any closers come. Or with that, if he does have a 2 furlong turn of foot like that, he needs to be closer to the pace when getting going. He only needs to be 2 furlongs out, of course, or maybe a tighter track and a bend might be more suitable. Obviously, with some form at Wolverhampton, may well indicate that. So maybe a tighter track. Maybe he's Hugo Palmer. Maybe a 1 mile 4 with a prominent ride around, say, Chester, for example. Obviously trains for Mike Lowen's establishment now, back in the northwest. So maybe somewhere with a bend, not impossible, but I think there could be room in 93 there. His efforts suggest the turf's okay, but do keep an eye on him if he goes back to the all-weather. And yeah, we shall see how he does. So I thought that was an interesting. He was interesting for all those reasons stated. May go under the radar a bit. We'll see if he does anything on his next few starts. 12 minutes, right? Let's pick up the pace. But yeah, hopefully, I like to explain myself, obviously. And those of you who can't be asked to watch the video can obviously just look at the list of horses if you're not interested in the reasoning. 225, Sandown. Dutch Decoy, that's the one. I should think he's gone into many a notebook. Probably not that obvious, but I thought I'd still mention him. Let's try and get this screen a bit bigger. Anyway, yeah, we're on. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Yes, so let's go back to the start. Dutch Decoy's wide. I believe this horse has been keen before. He can be buzzy, so you don't necessarily want to rush him out of the gate and get him prominent, especially wide when you've got daylight. It would light him up, pull the jockey's arms out, and would probably inhibit his chance of finishing off his effort, because he won't be racing inefficiently. He'll be using too much energy in the wrong part of the race. These are the things that jockeys have to think about, split-second decisions. But he's from wide. There's not many options if you're on a buzzy horse. You could try and go forward, but also if he likes running through horses and past horses, there's only so many things you can do. They've decided to drop him in. And because he's wide, in order to give him a best chance of finishing off, you don't want to be further back but 4 or 5, 6 horses off the fence, because then you're racing over far too far, and you're not going to do that well either, unless you've got a ridiculous amount in hand. But Haley Turner's got him out, ambled over, settled him, hasn't rushed him, tried to keep a hold of his head, but has ended up right at the back. And again, looking on a jockey's hands against the neck can be some indication, without resorting to the clock and sectionals and all that kind of thing, on whether they're going that quick through the race. And also looking at the result to see The horses that kind of finished near the front, were they near the front and handy through the race, indicating they've probably got an even pace and been in the right spot when it's kicked, or have horses from further back actually ended up near the front and done the winning, which would suggest they've probably gone, he may well have gone too hard or too fast through the race, and it's those in front have slowed down and the ones in back have either slowed down slower, if that makes sense, or quickened up to go past. So you can see here there's lots of, I mean, Proto in particular, there's quite a few horses in this race in the early stages pulling for their head. This one here is keen as well. It may indicate that some of these would have liked a stronger pace. Proto's the winner. He's probably in the perfect spot. There's a couple taking each other on near the front. And yeah, at this stage, Dutch Decoy's right out the back in an almost impossible position. We can just whiz that through. He's still out the back here. Haley Turner's starting to ask him. Proto's in the perfect spot. Uzo, he's not far off them either. He's here. He's in head of Proto. So these two are up there. Dutch Decoy looks like he wants a stronger pace. You think at this stage, well, what's going to happen here? He must have some ability and indicates he must still have a bit in hand, because he comes wide all the way down. Haley's hands and heels, she's wanted to keep hold of him for as long as possible, but kind of encourage him into the race without throwing the kitchen sink too late. I can't see the image here, but I suspect she's starting to get at him, and you just see him fly past here. Now, for that reason, he'll have entered many a notebook, of course. I haven't gone in the race in depth. It isn't one I studied beforehand. It might well be, there's a lot of horses there that are poorly handicapped or running in far from ideal conditions. That might be one of the reasons why he's just kind of waltzed past half the field as if they're not there. But that would indicate, the first two are up there. This horse probably needs a stronger pace. He came into this off 90. He posted a career best, I think, a career best racing post rating, which I always like to see. That may indicate there could be a smidge more to come. He's 6. He's had 52 races. You wouldn't think there's improvement necessarily, but off a mark of 90. Last win came off 87 with a £3 claimer. But that effort suggested 90 is workable. Will he always bump into horses that have got a bit too much in hand? Does he need another claimer on? But 1 mile, he's gone close a few times, 11 to 1, 11 to 1. Just looks like he needs a stronger pace. They raced him in touch with the leaders here. Pressed the leader, that was 1.5 miles. So it doesn't have to be ridden out the back. Has posted some consistent form, has just been unlucky by the looks of it. Needs to be drawn correctly, needs a strong pace, needs a lot to go right. A kind of stiff, fast run mile looks ideal. Possibly the Epsom the last half just stretched him, as possibly the last 1 furlong at Newmarket on kind of recent evidence. A flat 1 mile race. He did win at the July course last August. Wilder Johnson's target that race, that same race again next month, possibly, if getting in. So I will just check that while I'm here. 0 to 100, so it's going to be fine. I was just checking if it was a 0 to 90 or something. But we'll get in with 90 as well. So maybe he will be aimed at that race again. So possible. But it looks like on all evidence, or Glorious Goodwood, of course, it doesn't come too soon, where they do like winners. And maybe an 8 furlong there. Goodwood here. You can see 9 furlong in rear. I mean, he's always going to need luck when racing, particularly at Goodwood. Traffic galore. It looks like they like to hold on to him a bit, like I said, to settle, to finish off his race. And always with that type, you need plenty of luck in running. But it's why they can pop up at a price when it all does fall right, with pace, draw, getting the gaps, get a good efficient ride, good jockey, and so on. So Dutch Decoy, probably more obvious than some, but for those reasons stated. One to keep an eye on. I'm going to jump as I tick round to 20 minutes to Thursday, Newmarket. Where are we going to start? I'll mention St George. Whether or not he runs over here anymore, there was talk of sending him down to Australia. I thought he ran really well at Ascot behind Gregory. Just bumped into possibly a classier horse, but the handicapper put him up to 109 after that, so clearly thought that was a decent performance. 6 runner field, they dawdled. I thought he was only getting going when he hits the line. If you watch after they pass the line, he kind of whizzes past the rest. I don't think he's got a massive change of gear. I think he wants a stronger pace. I think he stays at least 1 mile 6. It wouldn't surprise me if he got 2 mile. The handicappers probably handicapped him out of handicaps, but maybe there's a listed or a group 2 somewhere over 1 mile 6 to 2 mile. Decent pace. He's a galloper, St George's. Quick ground, clearly fine. And yeah, if he stays in this country and doesn't kind of go looking abroad, or even if he does, keep an eye on him, because I'm convinced there's a staying pot at some level in him. He just needs it to drop right as well. The other one I was going to mention is who else? Hold on a second. Oh yeah, 225, a bit more obvious. You can watch that back. Lake Forest. Those two were both at the back through this race, suggesting they went plenty quick enough, and that might be something to know for the future. Maybe they're best when there's pace in the race. But Lake Forest took a little longer to get going than just saw. May just not be as good a horse, but certainly without doubt he'd have entered notebooks, obviously. It looked like 7 furlongs. Step him up another furlong. And he should be hitting the winner's enclosure again, no doubt. He won on debut for William Haggis, which he doesn't have too many first-time out 2-year-olds winning, and occasionally they can be smart enough. So Lake Forest, he did hang a bit as well. Whether that ground he found it quick enough, or just inexperience hanging to a rail, I don't know. But I think 7 furlongs. I suspect there's something still to be won with him. And yeah, not much else to mention on this day in particular. Quinault, a nice winner. And yeah, I'm going to jump to the Friday, the 150 at Newmarket, local Dynasty. Hold on. Yeah, local Dynasty, worth watching again. On a different day, I fancied it, maybe as pocket talk, and I was really annoyed that I didn't go with Mark Johnston's. I went with his other one who came nearly last. The Johnstons, Charlie Johnston. Now the Johnstons had farmed this race. He was trainer trends pointer, and a Mike Corangle qualify him, the other one, and I've just backed one and not the other. Idiotic, given these horses can bounce back to form. But had excuses. Another one during the week, just to mention, that had course form at Newmarket, especially on the July course. It seems to pop up all the time, but if you want a way in when, especially handicaps at the July course or others, see if they've previously won or gone close, because I'd need to research the stats, but course and distance winners, just from memory, stats may not back it up, but plenty of them, especially in the past week, seem to go close and run fairly well. Both his wins are on the July course. That was the way in for an owner who, the trainer said, Charlie, afterwards, likes to have winners at the July course. So do note those colours down. In that sense, it may indicate some are targeted. Pretty sure they like winners at Glorious Goodwood as well. So yeah, had winners on the July course, and there were excuses. Basically, been highly tried. Listed here, Group 2 didn't run too bad if you look at the RPR against the mark. Then Haydock was only 9 days later. Blowout. The Johnstons do that, can run them quick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Then Ascot, Group 3. That didn't seem to go well either. And then dropped back into a handicap. The mark come down £2-3, and back at his favourite course based on profile. Obvious enough, I suppose. And of course, he did have a good run here earlier in the season. This run good, this run not beaten for unlisted contest, and he led kind of deep into that as well. So he wasn't impossible to find annoying. But local Dynasty looks like he's got something off 101 if they stick to handicaps. Again, we can watch this through here. He is in the all blue, under James Doyle. I had to go at 6s. He was well backed. He's a bit buzzy. He's a bit keen. Maybe what the stronger pace is when they're up the straight here. You can see him here. He's not totally settled in the Doyler's hands. You can see why he wants cover. and he'd probably like a stronger pace. But it all starts to go wrong around here. So yeah, 4 furlongs out. I'm not sure they've gone overly quick, but the second has come from the back as well under Jamie Spencer. So being at the back clearly wasn't a problem. Doyle's seen they've started to quicken, and he's started to get after his horse, but I'm not sure if there's much room in front of him, given he's not throwing the kitchen sink at him. He's very much, I should think, he looks like gaps are closing in front. And he has here, he stopped riding, really. Kevin Stott is really getting after his winner is motoring and hitting top speed. Jamie Spencer's starting to get stuck in on the wing. Or cajoled his tricky horse in. But James Doyle at this stage, he's got horses in front. He hasn't been able to really ride him, so he's decided to switch. So he's had to stop riding as the winner is quickening, also then switch round behind horses, then come wide, and you know, it's a run of a horse that's got a bit of hand. He's got stuck into him a bit here. They're approaching 1 furlong from home. He's wide. Whether or not this is the good part of the track on the day, I'm not sure. Seemed to change plenty at Newmarket. Spencer's come from the far side. But look at him fly here, and then James Doyle's kind of gone, I'm not going to win. I'm just going to hands and heels. And yeah, possibly could have been closer. And if he was sat next to the winner through that race, or was able to, or had got a clearer run when he wanted to get really after him, and he didn't have to switch, and he settled a bit better, maybe a bit stronger pace, he would have gone very, very close to winning, I think. But it looks like 101, he could have a decent handicap in him. Is he one for Glorious Goodwood over 10? Or somewhere like that. So I think he's definitely... he might not be missed again next time. I'm not sure if I'd want to oppose him depending on price. Only had 7 starts. You can see here he ran really well at Royal Ascot towards the rear. He was an eye catcher at the time to some degree, just because he was poorly positioned, probably wanted a stronger pace as well. It looks like he's versatile ground-wise on all evidence to date. That was a career best Racing Post rating, 109. Like I said, I like to see that 104, 106, 109. That suggests he's progressing. And yeah, he's one to keep on side. What else? On the Friday, the 5:20, Good Earth. What do I want to say about him? I mean, he's a winner, but I just thought he did this quite well. I liked Isle of Lismore here as a course winner. Had some okay form. I think that one's okay. That one's here. Some of his better form, you see a bit keen. This one's keen and not necessarily going too quick. They're all kind of racing out their hands a bit. I think he might want a bit more cover, Saffie Osborne. Maybe a bigger field buried, and might well enjoy running past and through horses. Is around his last winning mark, I think, off 80. The Robert Cow horses haven't been necessarily firing on all cylinders. I think there could be... I think he'll pop up in the handicap at some point. It looks like Good Earth likes a stiff 5 furlongs. Wins now July course at Beverley, at Sandown. Apparently he can get too lit up over an easy 6, so he does too much early and then doesn't quite see it out at the end. His trainer saying afterwards that a stiff 5 looks ideal. I think he may have wanted a stronger pace, but he hits the line really hard here in an okay race, a 0 to 90. It could be he's just starting to come into his own. That looked like a career best. That was off. I mean, he's had quite a few runs, so you wouldn't think a career best, but it was a career best Racing Post rating. And we all know that some of these sprinters can keep getting better. He's 6 years old. Maybe he is getting even better, but that was a career best effort on Racing Post ratings, 98 off 84. It suggests to me, Beverley here, big field, prominent, comfortably off 80. Where else is he? Yeah, Beverley again there. Ayr, that was 6 furlongs. He has won. York's an easy 6, prominent, pushed out towards finish. So maybe an easy 6 is okay. His trainer's saying a 6-5, stiff 5 might be ideal. But the point is, yes, he's a last time out winner, so might not be the biggest price next time, depends. But I thought that was a solid performance, and he hit the line hard, and it suggests there could be more to come, and there could be a half decent sprint handicap in him when it drops all right before the season is out. Isle of Lismore, again, back to 80, which was, well, 1 off 79, so maybe wants to come down £1 more. Does have had one at the July course, that's why I quite like this one. Looks like a stiff 5 for this one is fine as well, but may want to be in rear and come through more horses. You know, he was towards the rear when winning this race, Newmarket, last August. Maybe they'll aim him at this August race again. And yeah, might just want to be more patiently ridden, but has been running well, in form. Looks like one of those sprinters that's just going to drop in again when everything falls right. And finally, I am going to jump over to Ascot as I tick round the 30 minutes. And we are going to start with, well, I should think Jimi Hendrix entered many of people's notebooks. This is on the Friday. I want to jump to the Saturday. That's why I can't see that particular race. There was nothing. I'm just going to jump and just remind myself. I don't think there was anything on the Saturday necessarily, which kind of leaped out at me. You know, I fancied a few that didn't seem to run very well that I'll keep an eye on, and there's a few others I'll touch on. And well, enter my own notebook who might have wanted softer ground that I put up at Newmarket and through the cards and other things in a couple of days earlier in the week. But yeah, Ascot, Jimi Hendrix, I'm sure you've all, well, an obvious one, I think. But he obviously won 2 big handicaps, including at Royal Ascot. He was whacked up. This picture's not very good, but hopefully you can see it. I can whiz through. Two horses have taken each other on here. It looks like Douglas Costello, for want of a better phrase, has shat himself and has panicked, thinking the front two aren't going to come back and that, you know, he might be left with too much to do. I'm not sure if he's got too many rides around Ascot or the horse is just tricky. But he starts to get after him here. Miles out, and it's that side shot we see. Where do we see it? Here. Look at that move. Ridiculous. The winner's here, not moving, and he just, look at this ground he makes up round here. It's like Costello thought they weren't going to come back. It's such an inefficient use of energy on that, you know, a furlong where he's been asked for a big effort. And to the horse's credit, he still stays in there pitching. Here comes the winner who's behind him and got a more patient ride. The third's there, the second's there, the favourite, who's rated 116. You know, they're 2 good horses on their day. The winner was second in the Guineas Fresh back in the day, 2,000 guineas. You know, Sonny Liston is staying on. He hasn't dropped out despite that strange ride. Now, if he had sat next to Master of the Seas through that and not made that massive move off the bend, I think he'd at least been second. He may not have beaten Master of the Seas, but you never know. And I just thought that was balmy. And, you know, many people have noted that. It was a career best. The blinkers seem to have transformed this horse here. First time blinkers here. Ascot, he won really well in a big handicap of 103. RPR 117, went up to 111. Looks like handicap's out of the question now. He must have a Group 3 or listed, or maybe a Group 2 on that evidence over 1 mile. He obviously needs a bit to drop right. He needs a strong pace, but a more efficient ride. The blinkers seem to still be working. He's trying. He's putting in an effort, and he's travelling fairly well. Maybe Dougie Costello, who's riding for the first time, wanted to keep him up to his work and wanted to let him know who's boss, but he's taken off as well, so maybe once he switched him wide the horse is just gone. I don't know, but that wasn't an efficient ride to my eyes, and you would like to think in the future he might do better for a more patient ride. And then a horse I liked, possibly idiotically, in the 440, far too shy. Idiotically because up against a lot of 3-year-olds, and the 3 and 4-year-olds have dominated this race, and I've gone with a 5-year-old mare. She caught the eye at Royal Ascot, went into the notebook. She'd won over at Ascot before. I don't know what Tom Quealy's doing. She seems a bit lit up, but I'm not quite sure as an excuse. She's here. She seems okay. Maybe she wants a stronger pace, or Royal Ascot has taken it out of her. I don't know. It's not impossible Royal Ascot's taken it out of her, and she needs a bit of a break after a big effort before Ascot. Sees a lot of daylight, but she did when winning 2 starts ago. She went into the notebook at Ascot because she was far back, race possibly not run suit, made a massive move off the bend and was still there about half a furlong from home before fading. I thought there was room to come in this mark. Quealy's ended up at the centre of the course. I don't know whether he could have ended up this side, but look, at this point I'm thinking, I've had an each way bet here, kind of 3-4 places. He's the last to move. She was back from 8s into 6s into 7-2 joint favourite. At this stage, I'm thinking, blimey, game over. Now he's going to ask. Now she's going to stretch. Well, he asks and finds little. Now, is that because they're racing up a swamp? All of the action then develops on this near side. Quealy looks over and thinks, oh, damn. All of these ones seem to be treading treacle. Possibly, well, they are, because these three definitely sprint away up this near side. So maybe that's quicker ground. Maybe she was just in the wrong part of the track. And I should say the front three were all 3-year-olds. Far Too Shy, rated 88, was giving them lumps of weight, the second nearly 2 stone. And yeah, maybe that weight told in the end. So maybe a bit of a freshen up. I wouldn't mind seeing her under, say, Jamie Spencer. Tom Quealy will probably keep the ride. Back at Ascot, a more patient ride, ridden even further back, running through horses, around horses, between horses. I still think there might be an 8 furlong handicap in her. Another fillies, maybe class 3 still off that mark, against older horses, aged 4 years and older, just so she doesn't have to give lumps of weight to progressive 3-year-olds at this time of year who are getting stronger and so on. So I still think, given how she moved there in the previous form and why she went in the notebook, she's still one to watch, and she travelled there like a horse on good terms with herself. I'm ticking around to 36 minutes, which is probably far too long, but hopefully that's more useful and interesting than just whizzing through a list of horses which you can just read. And hopefully you've enjoyed the watch. As always, post any comments. Any horses caught your eye from the last week or so, do shout, email in, post below on YouTube. You name it. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is Josh saying, have a great week, and until the next time, until the next video, this is Josh saying bye for now. Take care.